Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Monday. It is Monday again. It is Monday, May 15th, 2023. And I want to welcome you and say thank you so much for joining us this morning on behalf of Purpose Journey Counseling Reloaded. If I can get my stuff up here, my name is Dr. Natatu North, and I'm the owner and therapist of Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC, located in Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes, yes, yes. So we want to welcome you on this morning on behalf of Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC Reloaded. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're right in the middle now, but we want to welcome you and thank you so much for joining us. Again, it is Monday, May 15th, 2023. And we are live at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But whether you are catching us at 7 a.m. live or later in the day, later in the week, later in the month, or later in the year, we want to say welcome, want to greet you, and thank you so much for being here. We are live, though, currently at 7 a.m. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And the YouTube link for this broadcast is posted on Instagram. So we ask that you take just a few moments just to please like this broadcast. Please follow us on your preferred social media platform. We do ask that everyone please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you don't watch us on YouTube, it's all good. But if you could just subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also please share this broadcast. This is going to be an uplifting and encouraging message. So we definitely want to just spread the word to everyone. So if you could take a few moments to do that, and let's also interact and engage in the comments section. In the mornings when we have this time together, typically on a shorter time schedule, so I don't have time, I'm not able, I should say, to kind of respond in the moment. But I do like to go back and look at them later. Plus, a lot of the times there's been some comments that create actually dialogue between others as well. So it's very helpful, very impactful, because we all have things to share and we all can impart wisdom with each other. So this is definitely helpful. So I wanted to share just a couple of numbers that I share every time we're together, just to make sure we all have some resources. Having resources is good. Sometimes it's not that we don't want to help or we don't want to do anything. It's just that we don't always have resources. So I'm going to give you two numbers. I'm going to ask that you please put these in your phone if you do not have this information. The first is for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. This number is 24/7. 24/7. So please store this information in your phone. There's also the number for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That's 988. Again, really simple, 988. This number is also 24/7, and you can text this number as well. So please store those numbers in your phone if you don't already have them. It's just good to have them in case you may need them or someone else you may know, or you might meet somebody or see someone in distress and they may need that information. So thank you so much for just taking a few moments to do that. So on Mondays in the month of May, because as I stated before, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So every Monday we're having a little talk about different perspectives of mental health that we're just kind of focusing on these Mondays for our mental health moment. So our mental health moment for today is something that is definitely near and dear to me. Just as a therapist, just as an African American or Black woman, it's something that I've noticed and I've just seen. I've been in the mental health field now, it'll be 15 years in July. So it's definitely something that is near and dear to me. So I just want to kind of start with this statement: Black mental health matters. And as I stated, every Monday, so yeah, the t-shirts that we'll be wearing will coincide with our theme. So Black mental health matters. And the reason why we want to talk about this, I know 2 weeks ago on the first, we talked about just breaking the stigma on mental health in general. And it's something that needs to be done. But there's also an additional, so there's already a stigma on mental health, and there's an additional one with Black mental health. And I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about that this morning so we can emphasize the importance of breaking down these barriers as well. So just some research I found, communities of color, because of socioeconomic challenges, may be at higher risk for poor mental health. The stigma contributes to a reluctance to recognize the need for help of a physician or therapist. So a lot of this goes back to access and just different ways in which a lot of us are raised to not ask for help. Now, if you notice, this talks about a physician or a therapist. So we always talk about how mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health are all connected. So a lot of times, if there's a stigma around health in general, we're not necessarily thinking about our mental. We're not just not thinking about mental health. We're not always going to the doctor. We're not necessarily attending to our physical health needs. We're not necessarily, doing the things that are required, that are necessary. But communities of color, particularly as it talks about socioeconomic challenges, a lot of times we're just at higher risk anyway. So it's kind of like that predisposition. We could do a whole history lesson, and we're not going to do that this morning because we don't have time. But we've been predisposed, particularly, just talking about communities of color. So not just Black or African American, but Black or African Americans, we have been predisposed to trauma. We've been predisposed to a lot of different things, or those socioeconomic challenges, oppression, systemic racism, things like that, all contribute to mental health. They all contribute to mental health. And I want to say this next one just because I know this is, we've had to be strong and we had to do this. Yes, for many of the African American community, our story is one of perseverance and resilience. Absolutely. We've had to persevere. We've had to be resilient in a lot of situations. But having mental illness does not make you weak. It does not mean that you can't persevere or you're not. It doesn't mean that you're not resilient. Mental illness is something that a lot of people deal with on different levels at different points in their lives. It manifests itself differently according to who the person is and how they handle it. Are they handling it? Are they handling it? Are we doing anything about it? Or even saying like, I know I need to take care of that. I know I got some issues, but what are we doing to tackle this? So yes, we've been able to persevere. We've been resilient. But the problem in part is that we often fail to recognize that mental illness is much more than feeling melancholy or anxious. It is, like I said, it's not a sign of weakness, and it does not discriminate based on skin color. So every ethnicity, every culture experiences it in different ways. And we all have to join together to deal with this issue of mental health, but particularly in the African American community. It's interesting some of the things that people say, and a lot of times it has to do with, people's experiences with professionals, whether it's, again, with physical health, they're going to the doctors, or, there are disparities. Like I said, we could talk about this all day. There are disparities in the type of care, that African Americans particularly have received, whether it's for our physical health, and it even could be mental health as well. Or again, having access, being able to utilize the resources that are available. It's great to say, we have this or we have that. This is offered, but we need to be able to have the same amount of access to things. So, it's breaking down the stigma that mental health makes us weak as Black folks. We've been through so much, so we got it. All we need is each other. Like, yeah, we need each other, but guess what? We still need to go talk to somebody because, like I like some people, I'm not a doctor. So when people come and we're talking about physical health issues, I'm going to refer them to a doctor. Why? Because I'm not a medical doctor. So I can't diagnose, high blood pressure. I can't diagnose diabetes. I can't do that. But I know that there are people who work in the medical field that can do that. So as a mental health clinician, it's my responsibility to make sure that we're all tapping into resources, but that we have, again, access. I keep talking about access. So just another thing, when we're talking about, it doesn't discriminate based on, mental health does not discriminate based off of skin color. Despite this, African Americans are less likely than whites to seek out treatment and more likely to end treatment prematurely. And just some more information here. In addition, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health, adult Black or African Americans are 20% more likely to report serious physiological distress than adult Caucasians or adult whites. So again, we tend to have a lot of mental health issues, but we're not necessarily addressing them. So, let's go and put this up here on the one hand, this is due in part to long-held beliefs related to stigma, openness, and help seeking, which can make African Americans and other people of color hesitant to reach out. We've got to break this. That, it's a bad thing. We can't be asking people for help. We don't need anybody. I say this all the time. We all need each other. But we've got to break down these barriers and these walls that have us pushing each other away. Sometimes it's not lack of access. Sometimes it's just we just don't do it. That we're not doing what we need to be doing. We're not reaching out like we need to. We're not wanting to be open. We're closed off. We've got these walls up. Nobody can help us, or it's nobody's business to help us. We don't care if anybody, it's all of these different things that as the African American or Black community, we've got to address. These are issues and concerns that have to be addressed. And on the other hand, we professionals in the healthcare community must do the work to establish ourselves as credible, reliable sources of support. So that's the other thing, because then once people take that step and say, you know what, I want to go ahead and pursue this therapy so that I can do what I need to do for my mental health, then we as clinicians, we in this field, we've got to be credible and we've got to be reliable. So it's a two-way thing. The relationship is definitely reciprocal. So it's more than just saying, hey, we need to make sure that we're tackling this issue in our community. It's more than that. It's saying, okay, but now we're going to be we have got to be credible. We're going to be reliable, and we're going to provide the resources that are necessary. We talked about access to health professionals is critical. I've been saying that for the last 12 minutes. We've got to be able to have access. Access is important, but the other missing critical piece here is trust. Trust. People are not going to come talk to you if they don't trust you. Trust is something that has to be built. It's not something that automatically comes and I say, as an African American or Black woman, I say, you know what? I need therapy. I'm about to go in here and tell this person all my business because I know that's what they get paid to do. It doesn't work that way. Trust is a process. It takes time to build trust, building rapport and things like that. The therapeutic relationship is the most important part of therapy. If you don't like your therapist, then guess what? It's not going to work. It's just not going to work, and I mean, of course, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but you have to think about, what are you even looking for in a therapist? What's important to you? Yes, you want a therapist to challenge you. You don't want a therapist that's going to just agree with everything you say, because if that's the case, you're probably not getting any better if we're not thinking about anything different and trying some new ways to process things. But trust is still key. Trust has to be built. And let's face it, we as African Americans, I'm sure struggle with trust, whether we admit it or not. A lot of us got trust issues because of our experience. But in order to break down stigma, that's why it's important to address even those issues. I'm not going to go all into that because we're getting up on time, but that's why it's important for us to know. Yes, we need to know our history. Yes, we need to know where we've come from, but we also, as in learning that helps us understand who we are now, but we also got to be progressively working towards who we want to become as a community. So Black mental health matters. I just want to put this back up there again. It definitely does. And we could talk about this for a long time, but I just wanted to talk on that for a bit for our mental health this moment. So I've noticed there's been an increase of people, starting to attend therapy since COVID has hit. COVID really has, and I've said this on here before, COVID has shown us a lot. But I just want to encourage, my African American and Black sisters and brothers to really, really think about this concept. And there's some things that we need to do, but we need to be paneling together. And it would be awesome if, people who are saying, yeah, this sounds good, but yeah, I would love to do that. However, let's get together. Let's have some discussions. Let's have some conversation. Let's get to the bottom and the root of these concerns so that we can make sure that we are supporting one another, but that we are not. We got to understand where we are, but we got to understand where we want to go as well. So this was our mental health moment for today. Just as a reminder, we do have our mental health moments every Monday in the month of May at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please plan to join us. And then we do have our podcast, hashtag from a Christian, hashtag from a therapist with Dr. Natatu on Sundays, usually the first Sunday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I did announce a couple of weeks ago that we're just changing the date for the month, I'm going to put this up here again, but for the month of June, we are changing it because my husband and our anniversary is the first Sunday in June. So I'm celebrating 12 years. So we won't be here on the 4th, but we'll be here on the 11th. So our podcast episode 13 will be on June 11th. It'll be the second Sunday of the month for the month of June. So our tag for Purpose Journey Counseling. Again, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. But every time we're together, we want to encourage you to be loving, to be kind, be compassionate, and be intentional towards others as well as towards yourself. And we are doing all of these things when we're paying attention to our mental health. So Black mental health does matter, and we need to break that stigma down on that as well. So we'll keep working. Like I said, it's going to be a collaborative effort. We need each other. We need to be interconnected. So again, I just thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lord willing, we will see you next Monday for our mental health moment live at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a marvelous, magnificent Monday, and blessings and love.